Chapter 4: Blueprints and Blurred Lines. The construction site that would become their bar looked like a war zone. Dust motes danced in the afternoon sunlight, streaming through skeletal window frames, and the smell of sawdust and fresh concrete filled the air. Chloe stood in the center of the raw space, work boots crunching on debris, trying to envision Blackstone's architectural renderings in the maze of exposed beams and unfinished walls. "This is where you want to put a fucking wine cellar?" She pointed at Julian's proposed floor plan, her voice echoing off the bare concrete. "It's a bar, not a museum." Julian looked up from his tablet, where he'd been calculating sight lines and traffic flow with the precision of a NASA engineer. 3 days into their partnership, and that already had 70 documented disagreements, she was keeping count. "It's not a wine cellar, it's a spirits library. Curated, temperature-controlled, designed to showcase the craftsmanship behind each bottle." He gestured at the space with the reverence other people reserve for cathedrals. "The customers need to understand they're experiencing something special. You know what customers need? A place to sit down, drink something that tastes good, and not feel like they need a paid deity to order." Chloe kicked at a stray piece of rebar. "This whole corner should be high tops, community seating. People want to talk to each other, not stare at your bottle museum in religious silence." "Community seating." Julian said it like she'd suggested installing a playground. "We're trying to create an elevated experience, not a sports bar." "There's nothing wrong with sports bars." "I didn't say there was, but this isn't that." "Right, because heaven forbid we appeal to regular people who don't know the difference between Mezcal and tequila." Julian set down his tablet with enough force to send up a small cloud of construction dust. "Why is everything a class war with you? I'm not trying to exclude anyone. I'm trying to create something exceptional by making it so precious that half the city can't afford to walk through the door." "Quality costs money, Chloe. Real ingredients, proper technique, skilled labor. None of that comes cheap. Neither does alienating your customer base with pretentious bullshit." They've been circling the same argument for days, each conversation a proxy war for their fundamental philosophical differences. Julian wanted brushed steel surfaces that would showcase the precision of his craft. Chloe wanted worn leather banquettes that invited people to stay for hours. He envisioned an artisanal ice program that would require specialized equipment and dedicated staff. She wanted a simple ice machine that wouldn't break down during rush periods. "Look at this." Julian pulled up another rendering on his tablet, his voice taking on the passionate intensity she was beginning to recognize. The back bar design incorporates LED systems that can be programmed to highlight different spirits based on seasonal menus. The glassware storage is organized by cocktail family to optimize work oven efficiency. Despite herself, Chloe leaned closer to look. The design was undeniably beautiful, sleek, modern, impressive. It was also completely impractical for anyone who'd actually worked a busy Friday night. "It's pretty," she admitted grudgingly, "but where do you keep the beer? And don't say we're not serving beer." "The beer selection will be created craft selections that complement the cocktail program." "Julian!" She turned to face him fully, and he was struck by how the afternoon light caught the gold flecks in her brown eyes. "Real talk. How many beers do you think we'll sell versus cocktails on any given night?" He hesitated, and she pressed her advantage. "I'll tell you, probably 3-1, maybe 4-1. Because most people, when they walk into a bar, want something familiar and easy. Your craft beer selection is great for date nights and special occasions, but Tuesday night after work, people want a cold beer and somewhere to decompress. So we compromise our vision to serve the lowest common denominator." The words came out harsher than he'd intended, and Chloe's expression hardened. "The lowest common denominator. You mean my customers, the people who actually pay for drinks instead of taking Instagram photos of them." "That's not what I meant." "No, I think it's exactly what you meant." Chloe stepped closer, her voice dropping to the dangerous tone he was learning to recognize. "You think the people I serve are beneath your precious artistry. Well, here's a news flash. Those people work construction jobs and nurse shifts and double shifts at restaurants to afford a night out. They deserve good drinks and good service without being made to feel stupid for not knowing what the fuck a Sazerac is." "I don't make anyone feel stupid." "You absolutely do. You did it to me at the competition, and you'll do it to customers if we build this place according to your specifications. Julian felt heat rise in his chest, frustration, anger, and something else he didn't want to examine too closely. My specifications are based on industry best practices and proven design principles. I'm not going to apologize for wanting to do things right. Right according to who? The same industry that told you sports bars and dive bars don't matter. The same people who think bartending is only legitimate if it's performed like dinner theater. This isn't about legitimacy, isn't it? Isn't this whole thing just you trying to prove to your family and everyone else that you're not just some bartender? The accusation hit like a physical blow, partly because it was so accurate. Julian's jaw clenched as he fought the urge to walk out of the construction site and never come back. At least, I'm trying to build something meaningful instead of settling for mediocrity. Mediocrity? Chloe's voice rose dangerously. Is that what you think my bar is? Mediocre? Think your bar is exactly what it is. A neighborhood dive that serves its purpose. But this, he gestured around the raw space, this could be something more. More than what? More than a place where people feel welcome? More than somewhere they can afford to drink without taking out a loan? They were standing close enough now that he could see the pulse beating fast in her throat, could smell the scent of her shampoo mixing with sawdust and anger. The same electric tension that had led to their disaster at the competition was building again, crackling in the space between them. You're impossible, Julian said, his voice rough. You're insufferable, Chloe shot back. We can't work together. We have to work together. Why? Because Blackstone said so, because the money's too good to pass up. Because Chloe stopped, frustrated by the truth she couldn't quite articulate. Because when he talked about his craft with genuine passion instead of pretentious posturing, she saw something real underneath his perfect facade. Because when he looked at her like he was looking at her now, frustrated and angry and wanting, she forgot every reason they were wrong for each other. Because what? Julian stepped closer, and now they were nearly touching in the dusty, half-finished space that was supposed to represent their shared future. Because this, she said, and grabbed the front of his shirt to pull him down to her level. The kiss was just as desperate as her first one, but angrier somehow. 3 days of professional frustration poured into the connection of lips and tongue and teeth. Julian's hands fisted in her hair as she pressed him backward until his shoulders hit the exposed brick wall. This doesn't solve anything, he said against her mouth, even as his hands moved to the hem of her turd. I know, Chloe replied, biting down on his lower lip hard enough to make him groan. I don't care. They tore at each other's clothes with the same desperate urgency as before, but this time it felt different. Not just physical release, but something closer to claiming. When Julian spun them around so she was the one pressed against the brick, when he lifted her so her legs wrapped around his waist, it felt like a continuation of their argument by other means. Afterward, they sat on the dusty floor leaning against the wall, breathing hard and staring at the blueprints scattered around them. The architectural plans looked real in the late afternoon light filtering through the construction site, beautiful renderings of a space that might never exist if they couldn't find a way to compromise. We have to figure this out, Chloe said finally. The bar or this? Julian gestured between them. Both, all of it. She picked up one of the blueprints, studying the careful lines and measurements. What if we're both right? About what? About what people want. Maybe some customers want your artisanal ice program and temperature control spirits library. Maybe others want my worn leather boots and easy beer selection. She looked at him sideways. Maybe the magic happens when both kinds of people end up in the same space. Julian considered this, his analytical mind working through the implications. Zoned service areas. Different experiences within the same venue. Exactly. Your section can be as precious as you want. Mine can be as down-to-earth as it needs to be. But they share the same space, the same energy. It could work, he said slowly, if we're careful about the transitions between zones, if the design feels intentional rather than schizophrenic. So we compromise. Weeks elaborate, Julian corrected, and the word felt different than it had in Blackstone's sterile office. More real, more possible. Chloe grinned, the expression transforming her face from pretty to stunning. The anarchist and the alchemist find common ground. Don't call us that. Too late. It's already on the business cards, Blackstone ordered. Julian groaned, but he was almost smiling. Almost. They gathered up the scattered blueprints as the sun set outside the skeletal windows, both of them acutely aware that they'd crossed another line they couldn't uncross. The construction site around them looked less like a war zone now and more like a blank canvas, waiting to be filled with their shared vision. Whatever that vision turned out to be,